Hey everybody, I'm Bob Bakert with Jazz Guitar Today, and we're here with Russell. I mean, you are, I don't mean to be trite, but you are the man. You are.
Well, that's very kind of you, but listen, I'm standing in the shade today because people like George Benson, Wes Montgomery, Pat Martino, Barney Kessel, et cetera, et cetera. I stand in the shade because those men planted that tree a long time ago.
I hear you. You know, nothing is scripted. You know, I'm just talking. I hear you, and yet I can hear all those influences in your playing. You're obviously your own guy. There's no question about that. But you have also climbed that tree pretty damn high.
Thank you so much, man. You know, it's funny. You mentioned hearing those influences, and I don't take offense to that because I think those influences are supposed to be there. You're supposed to hear those. I mean, we definitely have our own thing, but when I hear a player play, if I don't hear just a smidgen of the lineage, I get a bit suspicious. So I think it's good that you hear those influences. Those are my fathers, those
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. I love the way you just put that. Yeah, you get a little suspicious. I'm like, well, where? No, I mean, but your playing is I mean it's its own thing. You're Russell frickin' Malone. I mean, that's what it boils down to.
Thank you so much, Bob.
You are you know, I'll tell you, in putting this together, you did something. This is the humanitarian in you, which I absolutely love. So the other day, I've got a friend, a guitar player friend. His name is Taylor Roberts.
I know that young man.
I know you do, and I talk to Taylor on a pretty regular basis. He's been in the magazine quite a bit, and I've interviewed him, and you know, I go to his, you know, and he said, "Man," he said, "you're not going to believe what happened." And I said, "Okay, you know, try me. Why not?" You know, she says, so I'm like gobsmacked, you know, and these are my words I'm putting in his mouth, but I'm just totally blown away. I got a call from Russell Malone. And he told me that he admired what I was doing. And, you know, I'm one of the young guys, and that he's got his eye, you know, that he's caught your attention apparently. And you just wanted to tell him to just keep soldiering on, basically. And I thought to myself, wow. I mean, he was blown away.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Russell, you are the top guy. I mean, all I got to do is say, who did Ron Carter choose to go out on this tour with? You know, and he chose Russell Malone. I mean, you know, I mean, you're the guy. So I asked Taylor, I said, would you write an intro for this? And I'm gonna give it up a little bit here. He says, Russell Malone is the very definition of a complete musician. He is a historian, not just evident in his conversation, but in every note he plays. He has a deep and profound respect for his predecessors. In a group setting, he echoes the giants like Wes Montgomery and George Benson. It's apparent. Yet he's instantly recognizable in his tone, touch, phrasing, and language. His solo guitar playing is in a league of its own. I'm going to put in parenthesis, my God, How Deep Is Your Love is probably the greatest solo guitar piece I've ever heard. Okay, this is me personally, that's a parenthetic statement. Is in a league of its own. He'll take any song in any genre and bring tears to your eyes. His influence from players like Ted Greene and Lenny Burrell are clear. However, he injects an extra dose of soul into every song that's all his own. There's a reason why he's been at the top of everyone's list, from Jack McDuff to Diana Krall to Ron Carter over the span of his career. He has total command of the guitar and fits into every musical situation with ease. My favorite type of player. And that's from Taylor Roberts.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Taylor, and thank you. But you know something? I think it's very important for musicians who've been out here for a while, and I've had a musical career for going on 40 years now, and And compared to guys like Kenny Burrell and a lot of the other ones that we all grew up listening to, that's still fairly young. But I've accepted the fact that there are a lot of young players who admire what I do, and I'm very flattered for that. But I also think that it's very important for us to reach out to these players and encourage them. I remember when I was a younger player, just coming on the scene, I pretty much get along with everybody, but every now and then I would run into musicians who were a little salty and bitter for whatever reason. And I would always feel an undercurrent of resentment towards me. And that happens a lot with, with a lot of the older guys who've been out here for a while, who feel that they haven't gotten their due. Mm-hmm. And they can be a little curt and, for lack of a better word, nasty to young players. And I just made a vow to myself that I would never be that way to a younger player. Just a kind word, just a kind gesture goes a long way with the young player. And I just never wanted to be one of those kinds of guys who was nasty to a younger player, because young people are very impressionable. So you just have to be very careful how you treat them. You got to be careful how you treat kids anyway, because you just never know how they're going to turn out. They grow up and they keep on developing, and they'll either embarrass you or they'll help you. Which one do you want? You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yes. Well, I think I appreciate that. I think it's one thing not to be curt and nasty to a young player and to be always whatever is respectful or encouraging. It's another thing to sit in your home and jump on the telephone and call the guy up out of the blue.
Well, I like to reach out to people.
Yeah.
I've had people reach out to me. I know Tal Farlow used to reach out to me. Kenny Burrell reaches out. Benson, all my favorite people, they reach out to me, and that makes me feel so good to know that there's somebody there thinking about me.
Well, that's interesting to hear. I mean, let's talk about that for a few minutes. So guys like Tal Farlow would call you up and say, "Hey, man, keep going, do your thing." Well,
yeah, I remember the last call I got from Tal, and I had no idea that he was sick. But he called me up, left me a message, and I wish I had kept that message. But he called me up and left me a message, and I called him back, and we just had a nice conversation. And then after that, he was gone. I had no idea that we were saying goodbye to each other.
Wow.
So you just never know, man. You got to be very careful how you treat people. Be careful how you treat people, and keep your karma clean. I remember when I was playing I had the opportunity to play with Sonny Rollins. I got to play with him for a year.
Yeah. And
one time after the gig, well, I would do this several times after the gig. I would go by his dressing room, and I would ask Mr. Rollins, "Is everything okay?" And he would give his opinions on the music and everything. But there was this one time I came by his dressing room after the gig, and I was asking questions about everything. And then I asked him if there was anything in my playing that he heard that I needed to work on or address. And he told me, he said, "Listen, you can play. You're a good musician." He said, "If I could tell you anything, I would tell you to keep your karma clean. Keep your karma clean, treat people right, and just work on being a good human being." Because he's told me that there are a lot of players who play very well, but they're not nice human beings. And I think how you are as a human being, I think that has an effect on how the music comes out. So that's where I am these days, man. I just want to be a good person, be a good human being. And I figure if I do that, then everything else will take care of itself.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I don't think you can be, well, I know this I can say is a statement. You can't be I'm going to use the word, you can't be an asshole.
You say that.
and make music that I want to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
It just ain't going to talk to me. It's just not.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
There's so many guys today that can play. They got all the chops in the world. I mean, they can zip up and down, but they can't talk to me. They can't emote. They can't connect to an audience. One of the things I noticed when you're performing is your eyes are always searching out there in that audience for people to connect with. Are you aware of that?
You know what? I make a conscious effort to do that because one of the things that I learned from playing well with a lot of the old timers and just playing different types of gigs and different types of music, you have to connect with the audience. You got to read the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm pretty good at that, at reading the audience. I might have, I mean, I never write out a set list, but I might have a blueprint in my mind as to what I want to do or where I want to go.
Yeah.
But I'm not married to that. That's not written in stone. I'm
Right.
feeling off the audience.
I
think most of the guys, most of us do that though. Most of us do that.
I noticed it particularly because I'm an actor. I've been acting for a while now, and in addition to play the guitar and all that kind of crap. But I decided to be an actor late in life, and so for the last 4 or 5 years I've been studying acting and all that. But one of the things that became apparent to me is connection.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an acting technique called Meisner technique, and it's all
What do you say that again?
Meisner, the Meisner technique.
Meisner technique. I never heard that.
Yeah, Meisner. It's all about connection, eyeball to eyeball connection with people.
Okay, all right.
And when I started studying that, I noticed that my ability to connect with audiences got better because that's all about connection. And so now I'm very conscious of it in watching when I watch performers, when I watch people do their thing. And it became so apparent when I was watching you play, watching you perform, that your mission is to get what's in your heart into the hearts of other people. It seems to me that way. I mean, these are my words, not yours.
No, but you're spot on. And I'm gonna tell you something, man. I started out playing music in the church, right? And
4 years old.
Yeah, but I discovered the guitar at the age of 4.
5. You were 5 when you went to the church and played.
Yeah. Well, I discovered music in the church around the age of 4, but I started playing in the church around maybe 6 or 7. But one of the things that I learned, and my pastor, my ex-pastor, rest his soul, he's gone now, but he would always tell us, and his phrase was, stay in the spirit. And, if we got too self-indulgent in, with the music, he would look over and we'd be over here to his right. And he would look over in our direction. And that would be your cue to get it in gear. And if you didn't get it in gear, what he would do, he would stand up, look over at you, and he'd say, okay, guys, you all stay in the spirit. Stay in the spirit. In other words, connect with the people. It's not just about you. And if we didn't get the message, here's what he would do. He would make you get up off the organ, the drums, or take your guitar off. Now, this may be a little hardcore, but this is what happened. He would have you get on the altar and pray for forgiveness.
Oh, geez.
That's serious. He was something else, man.
Wow.
But I learned at a very early age to communicate.
Right.
Stay in the spirit.
Yeah.
Stay in the spirit. And it's not just about you. It's all about communicating. And that's what music is about anyway. I mean, listen, I don't care how much of an artist you are or how much of an artist you think you are. At the end of the day, we're there to enrich the lives of the people and to entertain them. And you can be an entertainer without being a buffoon. Amen, or dumbing down the music, And all of my favorite people understood that principle. Right. All of my favorite musicians, Wes Montgomery, Jimmy Smith, Errol Garner, all those guys, Cannonball Adderley, they understood those principles.
It's really funny. I started writing a book called Why Do We Perform? And I still have an outline for it. And I'll try to be quick with this. And one of the reasons to perform is people do it to show off, display talent, to make money. But the one that, there's a bunch of reasons, but the one that really hits it is to communicate. Mm-hmm. And if you're not communicating, then you're not doing it right, as far as I'm concerned. If
absolutely.
If you're there to show off, okay, fine. We all know that. If you're there for, whatever reasons, but if you're there, how do you make people feel when they leave the room?
Man, you just hit it dead on the head, man. Leave them with something. Leave them with something. I'll tell you a story, man.
Sure.
A few years ago, when Les Paul was still around, A bunch of us got together at the Iridium to help him celebrate his 88th birthday, right? Did you ever meet Les Paul?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, what a character. In fact, as a matter of fact, I'm doing a gig in New York next week as a tribute to Les Paul and Mary Ford for 2 nights at Dizzy's. Yeah, meet my band and a wonderful singer named Tammy McCann. Anyway, so we got together at the Iridium for Les's 88th birthday celebration. Each guitar player got to the stage and we all played a song with Les, right? Yeah. So there was this one guitarist, I won't call his name because he's a very wonderful player. He got up on stage with Les. The rest of us, we just played standards, you know, because Les, he was a tune guy.
Yeah, right.
So this gentleman got up there and played one of his originals. Oh. And he didn't want any accompaniment. He just played solo, and the virtuosity was astounding. You know, it was astounding. It was impressive. And Les is watching him. So after he finished the song, the audience gave him a lukewarm applause. Yeah. So Les looked at him and he says, "Yeah, that was very impressive. That was good. Very nice. Nobody's going to be humming that shit on the way home." I swear to God, that's what Les told him. Nobody's going to be humming that on the way home. So the point is, you can be a virtuoso. You can have all the chops, all the technique, right. But if that's virtuosity and skill gets in the way of the musicality, and if it gets in the way of you getting the message across to the listener, what's the point? There's no point.
You're
you know,
you're preaching to a preacher, my friend.
I know you know this already.
Yeah, no, but I mean that's something that just based on I watch a lot of music. I don't listen to a lot of music as much as I watch a lot of music. I prefer watching people on YouTube because that tells me what they really do, not what happens in the studio. And I mean, how do they behave? How do they listen? How do the other musicians react to them? How are they with the audience? That's what I'm interested in. And there's a lot of people out there that need to hear that message from you.
Yes.
So I think that's a very, very important message. So let's go back in time just a little bit and then forward in time, because I'd like you to contrast your approach in playing from, let's say, the Diana Krall era to what you're doing today. And I don't know exactly how to word that question. And are you approaching the instrument any differently than you did back then, or is it about the same? And the reason I'm saying that is that there's a video of you with in that trio where you are just kicking some ass on some blues, and no apologies, man. You were right out there, right out in front, man. I mean, it's a solo. You're doing the solo thing, and you
I know what you mean.
Yeah, and you're playing
from a concert. We did a concert up in Montreal back in I think it was 1995, 1996.
You were playing your Ibanez.
Right, I was playing the Lawsuit Ibanez. But I have to go back. I'm gonna definitely address your question.
No, I want you to. That's why I'm asking.
But I have to go back a little further than Diana Krall, because I had some wonderful experiences playing with other musicians in other genres and other situations that, had I not done that, I don't think I would have been in Diana Krall's band. Because I also worked with, you ever hear of a blues player named Clarence Carter?
Of course.
Yeah, I worked in Clarence Carter's band for a while. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, well,
I did not know that.
That's what I see. You know, there's
there's
a lot of things that went on before her, and before Harry Connick Jr., because I was in Harry Connick's band before hers.
Right.
And then before that, was Freddie Cole, who I learned a lot from. Freddie Cole was the one who got me into he was the first one to pull my coat to phrasing right. And leaving space and just learning songs and learning the lyrics to the song, so you can, you know, when you play the songs, particularly ballads, when you play them.
He was magnificent.
Oh, Freddie was great, man.
He was magnificent. Yes
he was. But he was the one who really got me to thinking about telling a story when you play. Right. And then, you know, working in various bands around Atlanta. You live in Atlanta, right?
I do.
Yeah, because I was on the Atlanta scene for a while before any of this other stuff started to happen. And I was playing with guys like, people who aren't famous, the local guys who aren't famous, but they are so significant as far as my development as a player, as an artist, and as a person.
Yeah.
There was OG the Pen. Did you know him?
No, I did not.
He just passed. He's a piano player who just passed. I worked with OG the Pen. There was Tommy Stewart. There was Howard Nicholson, Joe Jennings, Dan Wall.
Those are names, yeah.
Fantastic piano player.
Yeah.
Neil Starkey.
Neil's one of my favorite human beings and one of my favorite bass players. I love Neil.
Yeah. See, Neil was one of the ones who pulled my coat to just exploring more harmonically. Him and Dan Wall. So these guys were very helpful to me in my early development. And then I playing with Jimmy Smith, that was such a great experience playing with him, man. So playing with those people, having encounters with those people, that's what got me ready for Diana Krall and Harry Connick. And then there was another guy. I might have, I don't know if you ever hear of a guy named John Collins?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of my heroes. Ray Brown was the one who turned me on to John Collins. I was playing with Harry Connick at the time. And I see, this is before Diana. I was playing with Harry Connick. We were doing a TV show, but Harry showed up late. He showed up about 3 hours late. So that left me and Ray Brown and some of the other band members, that left us time to hang out with Ray Brown. And he taught us so much that day, man. Taught us tunes that we didn't know. He also told us a bunch of stories. He told this one story in particular about Charlie Parker. He talked about how Charlie Parker, he was playing a gig with Charlie Parker one night, and this is back in the 40s, right?
Right.
Back in like 44, 45.
Yeah.
And they were on this gig, and Charlie Parker, first thing, he was very open to other types of music. He would be at the jukebox, putting coins into the jukebox, and he'd be playing country songs. Country songs. And people would ask him, well, Bird, you're the great Charlie Parker. Why are you playing this country music? And Bird's reply was, listen to the stories. Listen to the stories. Yeah. And then he also said that on this particular gig, Charlie Parker called a tune called My Melancholy Baby, which is a tune that most jazz musicians wouldn't touch, because Charlie Parker was always, interested in things he was one of those guys that thought outside the box, right. Yeah. So he called this tune My Melancholy Baby and just played so beautifully on it. And Ray told me that Charlie Parker very rarely played long solos, but on this particular night, he's really stretched out and just really played long on this song, and it was beautiful. And then he started to sing passages from Charlie Parker's solo, from what, he remembered what Bird had played from that night. And man, hearing him do that, I just got chills, man. I got goosebumps, just hearing him. And he was just so excited about when he was telling us that story. Well, I asked him, because you know how it is when we get around the older players, we always want to get some constructive feedback on what we're doing. So I asked Ray, I said, hey, Mr. Brown, is there anything that you're hearing in my playing that, I should work on? And he told me, he said, listen, kid, you can play, but you have a lot to learn. You ever hear of a guy named John Collins? I said, sure. I had heard of John, but I had never really delved into his music.
Right.
So Ray looked into his little black book, wrote down the number of John Collins, and then he handed it to me. And his exact words were, the next time you're in Los Angeles, you take your little young ass over there and go get some of that shit. That's what he told me. Ray was real direct. That's what he told me. So I went out. So the next time we were out in Los Angeles, I was playing with Harry in Los Angeles. and we had a couple of days off. So I called John and told him who I was, and he was a little. He wasn't really that. He was a grumpy old man. You know, he answered the phone. He go, "What?" You know, like that. He wouldn't say hello. He go, "What?" So anyway, so I finally convinced him to come and pick me up. I guess he must have heard the sincerity or the sadness in my voice. So he came over to my hotel, picked me up. We get in the car, driving to his house, and I was trying to engage him in small talk, but he was, you know, he's very, very short with his answers. But I was okay with that because the fact that that old man got in his car, picked me up, that said a whole lot.
Sure.
That's a lot. So we get to his house, and he wanted me to play something for him. And at the time, I was a, you know, speed demon. I was, you know, I wasn't really into. I was, you know, trying to play like the horn players.
Right.
So I think I was soloing through. I started improvising on a tune like "All the Things You Are" or "I Remember April," one of those songs. I didn't even address the melody. I just started blowing. So I could hear him like going, "Oh, another one of these kind of guys." So anyway, he picked up my. He said, "Well, let me see your box." That's what the old timers call it, guitar.
Yeah, right. Sure.
Box. So he, this man, I handed him my guitar. It was my Gibson Super 5.
Yeah.
He played 2 songs. He played 2 breathtakingly beautiful versions of "Lush Life" and this other tune of his, "Blended on My Youth." 2 tunes that he liked to play. And I was just so dumbfounded by what I heard, Bob. Yeah. And then he dropped this on me, and this is what made me think differently about the guitar. He told me that one of the things that really disappointed him about a lot of the younger players is that a lot of them are so fixated on playing lines. And he said, that's all well and good. That's great. And that's a part of it.
Right.
But he told me that if that's all you concentrate on, then you're really selling the instrument short, because the guitar can do much more than that. You know, one thing we have in our arsenal is chords. Mm-hmm. You know, we have chords in our arsenal, and we can get different things moving all, you know, simultaneously. Horn players can't do that unless they're in an orchestra, you know, and then whoever writes the arrangements, they're the ones who write the arrangements, and then they make us, they allow us to hear all of these different, what can happen. But the guitar can do all that by itself. And then he started to talk about players like Joe Pass, and he loved George Van Epps. Loved George Van Epps, man. He talked about Ted Greene and these guys who approached the guitar orchestrally. And that really, that turned my head around. And another guy who I got to be friends with, in fact, he's still alive. He's almost 90 years old. His name is Jack Peterson. You know that name?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, Jack Peterson. When I got to meet him, we became really good friends, and that just really it changed my whole perspective on the guitar between Jack Peterson and John Collins. So, you know, and so I started to really pay attention to that approach to the guitar, and I love players who can do that. And you know, there's some really good solo players out there. Ted Greene, who I knew. He was a good friend of mine. And there was another guy who I never got to meet, but he was great. You ever hear of Harry Leahy?
I do not, no.
Yeah, well, Phil Woods turned me on to him.
Oh, I've heard of Phil Woods, yes.
Yeah, but you know, Harry lived out here in New Jersey, and I think he taught at one of the schools. I can't remember which one. But you know, the guitar is such a beautiful instrument, man. I love chords. I love songs, and I love playing behind a singer. And that's one of the things that allowed me to get along so well with Diana, because we, you know.
Man, I love those duets, those duets with her.
We had some, we made a lot of good music together.
Gosh, it's such an art form to, well, first of all, she's amazing. Let's just start.
She's very, very musical lady. Very musical.
Yeah. You're talking about Diana Reeves. You're talking about Diana Krall.
I'm talking about Diana Krall, but Diana Reeves too.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm going to apologize. I was talking about Diana Reeves when you guys did the duet.
Oh yeah. Oh, Diana.
Oh man. I mean,
if there is a God, then Dianna Reeves is God's masterpiece. As far as I'm
telling
concerned.
you, man.
That woman is something else, man.
I am telling you. I mean, I love Diana Krall. I mean, when I first heard those records with you guys playing together, I went, holy. I mean, it changed my life. It really did. I mean, I just absolutely love what you guys put together. But I'm a singer and a guitar player. I'm not particularly good at either one, but I try real hard on both. Okay. And I did study vocal, classic voice. I studied guitar, all that kind of stuff. So when I can appreciate what people are doing, I'm listening to what you're doing for her.
For Dianna Reeves.
Yeah, Dianna Reeves.
Right.
I'm listening to what you're doing for her as the instrument. You're the only instrument. And what she's doing, what you're doing, what she's doing with her voice, with what you're, but I mean, I know everybody likes to talk about Joe and Ella and all that, which that's a whole different thing. But man, those tunes that you guys play together, that's just, I mean, that is just miraculous. It's just beautiful. Her voice, your guitar, what you're playing with her, the way that she's doing her thing with you, it's like, wow.
Well,
just
you,
freaking wow.
She's very easy it's easy to play with a singer like that. But you mentioned Joe and Ella.
Yeah.
I have to say, man, I learned how to play that way from listening to a lot of those recordings of Joe and Ella, because Joe he was a great accompanist, man. I tell you somebody else. I remember when I was a little kid, man, I was watching I think it was Lawrence. I forget what show it was. But I remember seeing Pearl Bailey singing on TV. Yeah. And she had this guy playing behind her. I got to meet him later on. In fact, I met him at Tal Farlow's memorial. Remo Palmier.
I don't know.
You know that name?
No, I
don't.
Oh
my God, great accompanist, man. Great accompanist. But I listened to a lot of those guys. And I tell you another guy who was a great accompanist to vocalist, Mondell Lowe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man. Check out this record called Mood to Be Wooed. It's a duo record with him and Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh man, I love Sammy Davis Jr.
Check that record out, man. And Mondell Lowe, when it came to anything, but especially accompanying a vocalist, he was the real deal, man.
Sammy Davis Jr. I don't as many accolades as he got, he didn't get enough.
He was a great singer.
He was a great singer. He's a great drummer. Everything that he did, a dancer, act. I mean, everything that he did. He was. I mean, anyway, I love Sammy Davis Jr. I mean, absolutely. I mean, I just like he's a freak. I mean, he's just a freak. I mean, to be able to be. I mean, that's just. I mean, God just said you will be a freak, and that was it. Amazing stuff. But Mondell Lowe, of course, was great. What I was going to ask, I interrupted myself. I interrupted you. I apologize for that.
That's okay. We're having a conversation, man.
Yeah. Where were you? Where were you going with that? Your Mondell Lowe accompaniment, Dianna Reeves.
I was just talking about.
Oh, you mentioned you're talking about you and Diana Krall doing the duo.
Yeah, we did a lot. We did a lot of those. Have you heard any of those duets that we did?
Yeah, I have, but I haven't watched them. I've heard them.
Yeah, but there's one that I'm actually quite proud of. We did it on there was a television show on BT, and we did and you can find this on YouTube.
I'll find it. I will. I promise you, I'll find it.
We did I Don't Stand the Ghost of a Chance with You. Man, we also recorded that song on which record was that? A record called Love Scenes. We recorded that song.
I've got that record. Yes.
Yeah, but we did that on Love Scenes. But when I was playing with her, we had a good time playing together. But I tell you, man, my favorite part of the night would be when she and I would just do duets together, and we just make magic, man. It was wonderful. But I love doing that anyway. That's one of my favorite things to do, which is to just me and a vocalist. I love doing that. I just played a wonderful gig with a singer about a month or so ago. Now, she's not a jazz singer, but she's a wonderful artist, Audra McDonald. You know that name?
I do, yes.
Yeah, man. Yeah. We played up at Caramore, and we did this song called It's Not Easy Being Green. Just the two of us. And it was wonderful. And her voice, man, her voice went very well. My voice and her voice and my guitar paired very well together.
Man,
I love playing with singers, man. That's my favorite thing to do.
You know, here's the thing about you. You know, whatever you decide to do, you just do it at the highest level. I mean, your solo guitar playing. Let's talk about that for just a minute. How deep is your love?
How deep that song? I recorded that. Benny Greene and I did a record years ago, and that
man, let me just make a comment about that. I just love what you do. First of all, I loved it that you selected that song.
It's a great tune.
It's a great tune. It's a great tune. But you selected that tune. It's like, well, wow, okay. And then your treatment of it is just, I don't know. It's like Taylor Roberts said, you know, it's just like second to none. I mean, it's just perfect. I mean, it's just beautifully done.
You know, like I told you before, I hanging out with John Collins and Jack Peterson and those guys, you know, they were so influential to me as far as, you know, playing the guitar that way. And I like good songs, man. And to me, I like standards, but I'm not a purist.
No,
I feel that a good song is a good song. It can come from anywhere. It doesn't matter even if it's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Man, I so agree with you.
If you sit down and just, you know, mess around with these songs, you could extract all kinds of beauty from them.
There's a lot of great stuff out there, and it's not all in the Great American Songbook. I mean,
that's exactly right, man.
A lot of great stuff out there.
Michael Jackson tunes. I've been working on this arrangement of that song "I'll Be There." You remember that song by Michael Jackson?
I love that tune.
Yeah, I worked out an arrangement on that one, which I intend to record someday. But I do play it in concert sometime.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
You know, songs are songs. Music is music.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question about your approach to the guitar today. I'm not, this isn't a question I know the answer to. I'm not trying to, like, you know, I'm not saying, gee, you seem like you're doing that. No, I don't, you know, nothing. But has your approach to music and the guitar, has it changed? If it has, how do you think it's changed? I mean, what is, as you've matured, boy, I hate that word.
No, you can say matured.
Yeah,
that's a good word.
Well, yeah, I'm older than you.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 72.
Yeah, you are older significantly.
Yeah, I know.
I'm turning 60 this year.
I know I'm a lot older than you. I know. And so, and let me just a comment on that is, where you've been and who you've been with, and you're only 60 years old, says a hell of a lot about your talent. I mean, it just says a hell of a lot about your talent. I mean, the people that you played with all the, well, you know, it's just a great thing. Anyway, how has your playing evolved and changed? Or, I mean, is there anything that you would say, well, I do this? I mean, how would you respond to that question?
I can tell you, because it's something that I was just telling somebody this a couple of days ago. I've been playing guitar for about a little over 50 years now, a long time. In the beginning, you work on facility, and you want to nail everything. You want to nail everything. After a while, you start to edit. And that's where I am right now, editing. You don't have to play everything. Just play the notes. If you're going to play something, make it count. And plus, you know, living longer, you know, those phrases, those notes mean something else. They take on a deeper meaning. I mentioned Phil Woods earlier. We had a talk one time. We were sitting on a cruise ship, one of those jazz cruises.
Right.
And I had played a gig. It was a duo gig, but the singer, she's gone now. Her name was Jackie Kane.
Okay.
Her name was Jackie Kane. You might have heard of Jackie Kane and Roy Krall, husband and wife duo. But anyway, her husband passed years ago. But on this cruise, on this jazz cruise, she and I just played a couple of tunes together, right? Played a few tunes together, and we played this one tune by Alec Wilder called While We're Young. Great song, one of my favorite songs. And Phil Woods was sitting in the audience with this oxygen, because he'd been sick, you know, he had emphysema. He was sitting there with his oxygen tank on.
Oh. You
know, the tubes coming out of his nose. But we started playing that song, and he started crying.
Oh, wow.
And no, Phil Woods, I don't know if you ever met him, but he was a strong, tough, no nonsense guy.
No, I never met him. I never had the honor.
Rough. But on the inside, he had a heart of gold. He was a real sweetheart of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sitting out there just bawling, man. So after we finished our set, I walked over to his table and I sat down next to him, and he reached over and embraced me. He gave me a big, great big bear hug. And he told me, he said, "Kid, let me tell you something." He said, "After a while, it's not about the chops. It's not about dazzling people. You start dealing with life. You know, life stuff, like
Right.
getting sick, losing people, losing loved ones." He said, the music takes on a deeper meaning. Those phrases take on, they mean something else after a while. And I heard what he was saying, but as I got older, I really understood what he meant. I mean, I've gone through my own health issues. I've lost people in my, you know, in my life, and I know I get what he was talking about now. You know, so you know, that's where I am. Just evolving as a player, evolving as a human being. All those things that has an effect on how the music comes out. I'm editing myself. You start to work on your sound. You become a little more meticulous about how it sounds, because sound is the first thing that the listener hears. You know, before they start to focus on what you're actually playing, they hear it first. It's just like a person with a good speaking voice, like remember Orson Welles?
Oh yeah, of course.
Orson Welles, James Earl Jones, Paul Robeson, the first guy who, the first Sherlock Holmes, Basil Rathbone. You remember that name?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, see, those guys had great speaking voices. So the actress Patricia Neal, I love hearing her speak. I'm a young guy, but I'm an old soul. I like a lot of that old stuff. These people had great speaking voices. So when you heard their voices, the sound of their voices is what got your attention first. Then you started to lean in and focus on what they were saying. But that same principle applies to playing music. When your sound is developed, it makes people, they hear that first, and it makes them want to hear what you have to say. And then when that sound is developed, you don't have to overplay or overstate anything. You let that sound, let your voice do the job, do the work for you. So that's where I am now.
I heard you say that in an interview with your bass player. You have a video interview with and I'm going to confess, I don't know everybody. I don't know all the names. I don't know everybody. So who was the young guy that plays bass with you a lot?
The one that he's not in my band anymore, because he started playing with Monty Alexander, but we're still good friends and we still play together from time to time. Yeah. His name is Luke Selleck.
Luke Selleck. Well,
Luke Selleck, great young player.
Yeah, he interviewed you, and that was your quote about him. Yeah, you said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact quote, but you said that something about the thing that I really like about you, you know, obviously you listen space, but the sound, you got a great sound. So, so that it's interesting. It's interesting that, you know, more and more, that's become more important to me as well. And when I hear you play, you know, all of you, I mean, you obviously you can play, but your sound is perfect. I mean, it's really, really good. And you play all kinds of different instruments. You know, I mean, I've heard you play on the Ibanez and the Gibsons and the D'Angelico. I mean, you know, all of those different things. But there's a consistency in the way your fingers pull the tone out of that instrument. It's very interesting. But I did hear you say that, you know, about sound. You and Ron Carter are well. First of all, let me just say this about Ron Carter. Many years ago, there was a Downbeat Pole television show. They did a production, and they had people like Stan Getz and you know, all the cats, and there were young guys in there too at the time, Chick Corea, and they had both, I believe, Ray Brown and Stanley Clark. And I mean, there's this all the Downbeat Pole winners. And of course, they had Ron was there with, was Dan. And all these guys are playing all the names that we've heard and all the kind of thing. And everybody's taking solos and blowing it. And I'm like, well, yeah, all right, I'll go ahead. Okay, digging this, digging it. And then Ron Carter does a bass solo. And he immediately became my favorite musician on the planet. I just was absolutely blown away with what it was his ability to connect his heart to his instrument, to me, was unsurpassed at that time. I went, holy, I never given up. I was like electric player at that time, I'm like, I'm thinking Mahavishnu and, all this kind of crap. And I acoustic bass was like, not even in my thought process. And I'm going, all of a sudden my life got turned around and an acoustic bass player became my favorite musician on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, you played with Ray Brown, and you played with Ron Carter.
And Stanley too. I played a gig with Stanley and Ron together one time.
Wow.
That was a trip.
Yeah. And so what's that like to be on the stage, with him doing that thing? That's got to make you.
Playing with Ron Carter?
Yeah.
Man,
yeah.
Let me tell you something. It's and I've been playing with Ron about 28 years now.
Yeah, I know.
Every time, and I'm not kidding you, every time we play together, whenever we play together, I always have to pinch myself or shake myself to make sure that it's not a dream. Because here's a guy, when I first got into jazz music at the age of 12, he was the bass player on all on those records that I was listening to. With Kenny Burrell, Wes Montgomery, George Benson, the Miles Davis records, and a few other ones. But I have to pinch myself. Is this real? Is this a dream? Because, and another thing too, he always does something or plays something that catches you by surprise.
Oh, that's the word.
When I started listening to those Miles Davis records, in the beginning, I was a young, naive kid, 12 years old, and I'm focusing on the piano player, what Herbie is doing. Herbie Hancock was playing all of this way out harmony. I'm like, wow, this piano player is really, he's got some stuff happening. Yeah. But having played with Ron Carter, I really believe that he instigated a lot of that harmonic direction. Because he does that on the bandstand when he's playing. I'm like, wow, where'd that come from? And he told me something about that band. He said the thing that made that band so special was the fact that everybody trusted each other. Yeah. If Herbie played something, or if he played something, right. If Ron Carter played something that was different than what they played on the same song, on another occasion or another gig, nobody freaked out, because they knew that Ron Carter's not going to play anything that's not going to be in service with the music. Yeah. So they just trusted him. And that's what I learned to do from, playing with him. And, when you play with Ron, you just can't listen to him on a superficial level. You can't listen to him on a superficial level. You got to really pay attention to what's going on and then respond. So, it's playing with him is wonderful, man. Anytime he says, hey, I got this gig here, or are you available for this? I never say no, because I know that it's an education. It's going to be great. And, once the creator takes him away, you're not going to ever experience that again. So I'm there for him whenever he needs me. And we've become like family over the years, man. He's a beautiful guy, a great musician.
Well, it's interesting. When you think about where he's been, who he's been with, and all the stuff that goes on in his mind, and his canon of performance for all those years it's just mind-boggling. And excuse my expression, but goddamn good and well, if he played that note, there's a reason for that note.
Everything that he plays has a place and a purpose. There's a reason why it's done.
Yeah. And I firmly believe that the bass, and I'm a lifelong guitar player. I've been playing for 60 something years. I believe the bass is the most important instrument in any orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you why. This is my belief. I could be wrong. You can change any other instrument, the harmony they're playing, the rhythm they're playing, everything, and not fundamentally change the tune as much as you can with the bass.
You're right about that.
You take a
And
bass
he's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, exactly. You can take the bass line of any tune and completely make it something different. You can't take the guitar line of any tune and make it something different. You can't take even the drum feel. You can't make it something different, or the piano harmony. But if you change that bass line from a melodic bass line to a funk bass line, you're going to have a different song.
Well, Ron, he talks about that. He says that he's very much aware of that, because he told me one time, he said, I want to play something that's going to make everybody's eyebrows go to the back of their head. That's what he told me. So he's aware of the power of that instrument,
man.
But it's always musical.
Well, he's he's Ron Carter. What are you going to say?
That's exactly right.
But what I was going to say about that is that that power is never abused. I mean, it's just always servicing the music, servicing the orchestra that the setting that he's playing in. I mean, it just doesn't get any better.
He's a fascinating guy to talk to. Also, I've gotten so many interesting stories. He told me an interesting Wes Montgomery story.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, he told me that I think his first major record date was on Wes's record, So Much Guitar. You know that record?
I do.
Yeah, it was with Wes Montgomery, with Hank Jones, Lex Humphreys, Ron Carter, and I think Ray Barretto played percussion on some of the tunes.
Well, you're better remembering that stuff than I am.
Well, I slept with those records. I lived with those records. Still living with those records. But he told me that, because Wes wasn't a scholastically trained musician, so he came into the studio with no charts, no nothing written down, and basically just talked everybody through the tunes. It goes like this, and he played, demonstrating on his guitar. I think Hank might have taken some notes. Ron might have taken some notes, because he's a meticulous guy that way.
Yeah.
But Wes just came in and just told him, hey, this is how it goes. And the rest is history. That record is a classic, man. Yeah, it was very, very interesting to hear that.
I once asked a guitar teacher, I said, because, you can transcribe Wes, you can transcribe almost a lot of players, and you can see what they're doing and how it makes sense mechanically on the guitar, how it makes sense, why they were here and now they're here, and where, the pathway. And then there's Wes. And it does nothing. He's just an outlier. I mean, nothing makes sense to me. It made sense to me. And I said to my teacher at the time, I said, what's going on? I mean, what book can I go to and what understand what the hell he's thinking? He says, Bob, he just hears it and plays it. And I thought, you know what? I'm not at that level. he just hears it and plays it, and he hears differently than most of the rest of us, and his ability to hear these things and just play them is just unfrickin' believable.
Wes was something else, man.
You got a profound bluesy element to your playing at times. I mean, I think that's a pretty fair statement.
No, it's there. That's who I am. What can I say?
Yeah, profound bluesy element you're playing, and in fact, you even hit a lick, that old, I'm a man lick, what would you say that, I mean, and this is, I'm really off the reservation on this one, but what would you say that you most picked up from someone like George?
Man, I picked up so many things from so many different people, but I guess, you mean George specifically?
George Benson specifically. What
okay.
Would you, I mean, just for fun, you can take this.
No. I'll tell you.
Take them anywhere you want to take them.
We had a conversation one time, and he told me something that he had picked up from Jack McDuff, because Jack was his first gig, when he was a teenager. And he said that first of all, he didn't really, when he was playing with Jack, he didn't have time. There weren't a whole lot of long solos in the band. You had to get in and get out. But at the same time, you had to fire it up and really, just from note one.
It's your turn. You got to go. Yeah.
And that's what I got from him. Whatever you're doing, play it like you mean it. And if you make a mistake, play that like you meant it. And he told me that one time. And then he looked at me. He said, Malone, brother. It's like George talks, brother. I only know one way to play, and that's kill it. That's what he said. Kill it. He said, you got to kill it from that first note. Fire it up. And that's one of the things that I got from him, And I've gotten some things from Kenny Burrell also. I don't know if you ever met Kenny, but man,
I have met Kenny.
That guy, man, he's one of my biggest influences for his sound and just playing with taste.
Oh yeah.
He told me something one time about the importance of playing for the situation.
Yeah.
Don't go out there trying to prove anything. Just play for the situation and allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to play.
Yeah.
To play what the music is called for.
I love Kenny Burrell.
That's one thing I got from Kenny Burrell. I got several things from him, but that's one of the things that stick out.
Is there anybody else that you'd like to mention, like specific, poignant lessons that you can?
Well, Bucky Pizzarelli was another guy that I spent a lot of time with, just hanging out with him. And he didn't tell you anything specifically. Most of these guys never told you anything specifically. You just sit down, and if you're fortunate enough to sit down in front of them while they have a guitar in their hands, you watch them play and you pick up some stuff. Because I never got anything specific about the guitar from George. Well, he showed me a couple of voicings, but as far as just picking up things about the guitar, I learned just from sitting next to him, sitting in front of him in his studio, just watching him play. And if you got any kind of common sense, you're going to pick up something along the way.
Man, I devoured his playing. In fact, when I first, Beyond the Blue Horizon and all those records, and Bad Benson, which I loved that record, all those records. And then along came the Breezin' record, and I heard Stevie Wonder singing on the vocal there. And I
thought it was Stevie Wonder.
I said, man, he's got Stevie Wonder on the vocal. And I went, the game was over after that, as you know. I mean, but at any rate, yeah, we, the power and the energy that he brought was just crazy and stupid. And it's interesting you say that, kill it. And John McLaughlin told me, he said, I got to leave blood on the stage, and I said, yeah, I love that as well. It's the same kind of thing. Well, listen, man, before we go, is there anything that you want to add to this or subtract or is there any particular message?
Well, first of all, it's great to talk to you.
I'm having a ball.
We've had a great time here, but there's so many wonderful guitar players out there, man, who I love.
Well, can we do this again?
Yes, we can definitely do it again.
I would love to do this again because I'm loving you. You got such great stories, and your appreciation for what you've been exposed to, and then what you've done with what you've been exposed to. I mean, it's right place, right time, the ability to take advantage of it, recognizing you're there, and having the heart and all that to actually do what you've done. I have so much respect for you and everything that you've accomplished in your playing, and that Taylor Roberts thing just blew me away.
Oh, thank you.
I thought that was.
You got to be nice to these young people, man.
Oh man,
older people. They deserve their respect, but young people deserve respect too, because they may be younger than you, but they're still human beings.
Oh, absolutely.
Human beings deserve respect.
Right. I don't think we can do any better than that. I think human beings deserve respect is pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. So, like I said, is there anything that you want to, anything? I mean, your gigs are, you're so well documented. I mean, people, if they want to know if they don't know about you, shame on them, but there's a whole lot of information out there. So what's the next thing you got coming up, I guess, would be my
Well,
question.
we'll have this gig coming up. I told you next week about this
Yeah.
thing coming up at Lincoln Center with for a tribute to Les Paul. And then I'm going out with Ron Carter in September. Before that, got a couple of recording sessions with
Right.
various artists. And then in September, I got a very interesting thing coming up for 3 days doing a Wes Montgomery tribute in Indianapolis, his hometown.
Yeah. Wow.
His son, Wes's son, Robert, who's a very, we're very good friends, and he asked me to be involved in this. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun. I normally don't like to do tributes, but
Yeah.
well, the case in point, Les Paul, who was a very good friend of mine. I knew him personally.
Yeah.
And Wes, who I never knew, but I feel that I have a personal connection to Wes because
Sure.
well, I know Wes's son, and I knew his wife, Serene.
Oh, wow.
I got to spend a little time with her, man, sweet lady. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing these things.
And the dates with Ron where are you starting that?
We're gonna be first place is gonna be in Denver, Colorado. We're playing at a place for a couple of nights called Dazzles. And then we're going to Austin, Texas.
Do you know the dates of that off the top of your head?
I can tell you, I got it right here.
The reason
I can tell you right now. Hold on, let me pull my calendar up here. That's in September. September. No, I left out one. September 8th, we're going to be in Champaign, Illinois. Yeah, 12th and 13th in Denver, Colorado at Dazzles, and then the 16th in Austin, Texas.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, Russell, this has been a thrill.
Oh, thank you, Bob.
I mean that sincerely. It's been a thrill. I mean, I as I've already said, I admire you as a person. I admire your music. It's an honor and a thrill, and I'm so glad that you did this.
Hey man, you're very welcome.
So we're gonna wrap it up. Bob Bakert with jazzguitartoday.com with the amazing, great, wonderful, doesn't get any better, Russell Malone. Russell, thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you so much.
All right, man.
Bye-bye.